Welcome into Northside Territory, Foul Territory Network's Cubs podcast. I'm Sahadev Sharma with my partner, Patrick Mooney. We are your Cubs beat writers over at The Athletic. Patrick, I am in Tokyo. The Cubs are in Tokyo. I don't know how they're doing. I'm surviving. I'll say that. It is 10:30 a.m. Tokyo time right now. And somehow I slept normally. I think I was up for 27 hours with
Ah,
maybe an hour of spotty sleep. I am not a good airplane sleeper. I just am
ooh.
not, which is not great for what we do for a living. But yeah, it didn't work out in my favor. Before we get into my
You sound pretty chipper, man. Is it?
yeah, no, I'm feeling okay. I think the night's sleep, like I went out with well, not really went out, went to the hotel bar with our friend Megan Montemurro and our other friend Evan Drelich, and
Nice.
just kind of like we forced ourselves to stay awake. I think Megan may have gone out for another drink, and I was like, it's past 10 p.m. I've made my goal. I am going to bed. I've been up for 20 something hours straight. This is insane. But yeah, how was what did you see in your final moments there in Arizona? I think you're back home now.
Yeah.
But what did you observe? The kind of the vibe from the team. I saw them all. They were all like kind of dressed the same. It almost felt like a Joe Madden moment, but obviously very different. But they were all like in their Tokyo gear, Tokyo Series gear. It looked fun. There were a lot of videos coming out.
Yeah, I mean, the Cubs lead the league, in sweatsuits and T-shirts and team trips and things like that. And it was kind of odd, like, we've been doing this so long and it's such a regimented thing. Not that it's boring, it's just that you have your body clock, your schedule is kind of used to. And, that last day of phase 1 spring training in Mesa, just seeing all these equipment bags everywhere, suitcases, backpacks. And it's like spring training's not quite over. Like the season is about to start, but not really. Like it was just kind of in this limbo zone. You had all these suitcases were lined up later outside the performance center there. A bunch of moving trucks and buses. And, it was this kind of odd thing of every day asking counsel about the roster. Well, we don't have to make a decision yet. Telling Kevin Alcantara and Matt Shaw, pack for Tokyo, and then pretty sure they got a heads up of where things were leaning towards, but no official announcement till Tuesday morning for those guys. So, I think we said this earlier on previous shows, but I think they're genuinely excited. Like there was not a lot of, and I read this too. I think it was maybe in Bob Nightingale's story from the Dodgers side of like how MLB had a trip to Australia several years ago, and lots of players were kind of complaining about it and the travel and the schedule. I did not get any sort of inkling on that, and I'm sure how much they respect Shota Imanaga and Seiya Suzuki. I'm sure as a part of it, but also just like what counsel said, this is an awesome experience for players, staff, executives, and the media traveling abroad as well.
Yeah, I've tried to look at it in that way too. That this is a moment for all of us, like to kind of soak it in. It's kind of like I was stealing this from Nico, but I just thought of it too. Like you have to, like when they made the World Series, I was like, okay, I need to focus and I need to get my work done, but also like appreciate these moments, like
Yeah.
soak it in. Like who knows if you'll ever get this opportunity to cover a World Series again. So like I don't know when I'm going to get back to Japan. I'm certainly like it's very unlikely I'm going to cover the Cubs in Japan in the near future again, right? We don't cover the Dodgers. Fabian Ardaya, our Dodgers beat writer, apparently gets a a trip every year to some foreign country. Korea last year, Japan this year. Who knows where he'll go next year? So it is. It does feel like it's going to be a moment. the travel is long. It is exhausting. It is kind of discombobulating, I'd say, because I woke up at 4 a.m. on Tuesday in Chicago, and by the time now it's 10 something on Thursday, and I feel like I just got here, right? But I've lost 2 days, over 2 days, it feels like, just because of the time change and the
Yeah.
travel. So that's a little discombobulating, losing those days and then like communicating with people back home. Like I'm texting with my kids, and things like that. And you're just like, it's weird, right? I know, I understand it. It's not like I'm breaking news here that it's a different time in Japan. I get it. I get these are simple concepts, but it's still like throws you off, and experiencing it is very odd. I haven't had a chance yet to like really go out and explore. So I'm looking forward to doing that and kind of getting around it and kind of like seeing things. I think the exhibition games are going to be fun. Like I'm
Yeah.
really curious to how and we'll talk about this when I experience it. But like the crowds, what are the vibes like? Like how different is it compared to a American crowd? Just the food at the ballpark, how different is that? And we'll talk plenty about baseball, but I just think like I think this stuff is something that these players seem. I get what you're saying. Like I like that nobody was complaining. Like I think that's I don't know who put it in perspective for them or if they all have good perspective, but my assumption is there must have been something said or understood among the group. Like, yeah, is this going to be a strain on us? Will this be a little difficult? Yes, but we're up for this challenge, and also like this is an experience. Someone must have made that clear to them that this is important and this is going to be a bonding experience. We are going to be a better team because of this.
Yeah, I think that messaging has been from the top down. As you know, this group is pretty thoughtful and mature. Uh, and they just have two terrific Japanese players. I think it might have been Seiya who had joked at the start of spring training, like, I'm not going to give them any recommendations or advice. I want them to know how I feel when I travel around the United States. But even Jamison Tyone was saying, like, my goal was to just pitch somewhere in Japan, that he felt the Tokyo Dome was one of the greatest baseball venues in the world. He wanted to experience that, and that even facing one of the NPB teams would be a phenomenal memory for him. And I think that's what a lot of players had said. I think it was Justin Steele and Pico Armstrong, when I'd asked them, both referenced, like, and Tyone as well, like, I've seen these videos of what the crowds are like, and that, with social media now, with YouTube and how connected our world is, like, they have a sense of what's coming, and they saw that WBC a couple of years ago was just, I think the more and more we're removed from it, was a enormous landmark event. So that while it is a foreign place, I think the baseball is going to be very familiar and energizing for them.
How you said that someone was talking about how they complained about one of the series. Was it Australia that you said? And how long ago was that?
I believe it might have been 10
It was like
years
10,
ago.
15 years ago, right? Yeah, it was. I mean, the game has completely changed, right? Like we have this influx of Japanese talent. I think the world has kind of changed where what you said, like they see videos, they see these things, and I think they see the talent and they understand like
Yeah.
this is a different. This is maybe Australia is just different than Japan. Japan loves baseball. They understand that. They have two, like you said, they have two great players. They regularly pursue players from Japan. Darvish loved his time in Chicago, and he's probably behind Ichiro. He's probably the most famous that played in the MLB, Japanese player that played in the MLB. Um, I think this is it's going to be an event for everyone and an experience for everyone. But I think like what I'm curious about is like for me, like I traveled overseas as a kid all the time. I'd go to India every 3 years with my parents, right?
Yeah.
So like as annoying in quotes as the long flight is, I've done it before, and I know it's just like you just kind of grind through in a sense. I saw some of the videos, and like Pico Armstrong seemed legitimately a little stressed about it all. Like he's like, I'm gonna be on a plane for how long? Like, kind of like, what is this? Like, how am I gonna do this? I'm curious how many of them, like, and Pete's probably like traveled, I would guess, like knowing his family and all that stuff. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm making an assumption that I shouldn't. But like, like how many of these guys? They've all traveled the country, obviously, but I wonder how many of them have actually traveled overseas. Like how many of them want to? Like we know, like some of them do that over the summer. I don't know how many of them actually do it. So this is like
Ian Happ had gone to Japan, I think maybe on his honeymoon or something like that, and I know he had visited Seiya during that time. But
nice. Okay.
That was
I said over the summer, and I didn't mean the summer because they play baseball during the summer.
Yeah. Well, it's they traveled to London, and I think we've mentioned this before too, but in 2023 they felt like they were really rolling. I think they won 4 in a row, and then they go to London, and I think Stroman get hurt. They lost at least 1, maybe 2 games. They come back to the Smoky Wrigley Field of the Canadian Wildfire.
That was weird.
Like it was
a weird
their season hit a wall there. And I think in general, the Cubs are more concerned about the back half of this trip. Like when they get back to Arizona, the jet lag, the like ramping up for the Tokyo series, ramping down sort of when you get home, having to play more exhibition games, and then having to face the Arizona Diamondbacks in, the next 160 games of the season. So I think that's probably what, when you get back to Arizona, that'll probably be a story of like, okay, how do they recover from this or, build off of this depending on how things go in Japan.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly going to be interesting how that all happens, right? Like the ramping down process is going to be weird, I would think. Like, how do you handle that? Like, what exactly are they? Like it's just a weird experience. You talk about like there's the All-Star break, but that's after 3+ months of playing baseball, like going at it. You almost need that break to for your body to like recover. This is just a very different experience. And they're also gearing up for what's going to be a really daunting first month plus. I mean, let's not, like, I know everybody looks at the Athletics and thinks they stink. They don't. I think they're going to be pretty good. And then, so you open up with the Dodgers, obviously, and then Diamondbacks, then Athletics, then Padres, then Rangers, then Dodgers, then Padres, then Diamondbacks, then Dodgers, then Phillies. Are you kidding me? Like, that's how they start the season. Like, the easiest stretch right there is the Rangers. Like, and the Rangers could be good this year. They're a year removed from winning the World Series. I don't know how good they'll be this year. That's a really hard first month, and we'll talk about that a lot more as they get into it. But I think that is interesting. I think that's an interesting idea that they have to they kind of have like this exhilarating experience. So not only do you get like mentally pumped up, but like physically you're ramped up, and then you have to come back. And then you have how many exhibition games? 5 more, and then you have to play real baseball again. It's just kind of weird. I'm not saying it's like we just said how awesome this experience is, and like I'm happy that everyone gets to go through it, but it is like baseball wise, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle it.
Well, look, and they survived phase 1 of spring training. Particularly when you look at just all the headlines coming out of Yankees camp, they avoided that enormous disappointment over how the Alex Bregman saga unfolded. You were there for Sammy Sosa's return. Those are the two kind of like bigger, I'd say, national storylines. But otherwise, they kind of checked a lot of boxes. They knew they had their schedule. They knew when they were leaving. They knew the checkpoints they wanted to hit with their pitchers. They largely did. I think the pitching depth, you've mentioned this. Players have mentioned this. Like, it's pretty exceptional, especially compared to some other Cubs teams we've seen, even great Cubs teams we've seen before. I don't think had this sort of like pitching depth layered kind of up and down the 40-man roster. And then, look, guys like Matt Shaw, guys like Pre-Crow Armstrong, it'd be fascinating to see how they respond to this environment and the challenge ahead, because there are times when I look at this roster and it's like, man, they're pretty thin on the bench. They got a lot of young, unproven question marks at lots of key positions. Then other times you look at, like, what if Matt Shaw is the rookie of the year? What if Pete Crow Armstrong is a star? Like, what if Michael Busch just gets a little bit better and Dansby and Nico are healthy? Like, there are so many ways this could go. And that was kind of my feeling as I was leaving Mesa and heading to the airport and out of spring training, of like, we really don't know what's going to happen, but I think they have this kind of solid foundation, and then it's up to them to like just go out and do what they've been talking about for a while now.
All right, Patrick, I want to take a real quick break, and then I have a question for you about the pitching that we should expect in Tokyo.
FT fam, if you love ripping packs of cards, there is a modern way to do that now on Arena Club with their slab packs. And Kratz, I know you love ripping slab packs and getting that sweet card that you've always been looking for.
Yeah, and you don't have to go through all the other ones, all the Kratz cards that are in there. Bang, you just get the big one, the one that you're just peeking right around the corner when you open that pack, the one you expect to get.
Also, Arena Club will make you an instant offer for your card based on its market value. You'll get an instant offer of 90% of the estimated value, so you can accept it on the spot, simple, fast, and risk-free. Use that cash to buy more slab packs, and you can get your cards officially graded by Arena Club. So go check it out right now, FT fam. You can get 20% off your first slab pack or card purchase by going to arenaclub.com/foul and then use the code FOUL. That's arenaclub.com/FOUL, code FOUL for 20% off your first purchase. Get after it, FT fam.
All right, Patrick, we know Shota Imanaga game 1 versus Yamamoto. I'm not sure how recently this was announced, but Roki Sasaki is officially starting game 2 against Justin Steele. That'll be really fun. What is the plan? The rest of the plan for the pitching? Like, what else? You said Tyone likely going in the second exhibition game.
Yes, well, obviously they're going with out-getters. That's their plan, is to get outs. But beyond that, Craig Counsell said bullpen game for the first NPB exhibition, Tyone starting the second exhibition. As of Tuesday morning, they were holding off on a Matt Boyd decision, whether or not he'd be available out of the pen against the Dodgers, or whether they wanted to have him absorb some of those innings in the exhibition games. My guess would probably be that they'd use him in the exhibition games, but like, this has been a weird process, and they don't know, they could show up at the Tokyo Dome for a workout, or, something could happen in one of those NPB exhibitions that makes them change their plans. Otherwise, you hope Shota and Steele can throw 70, 75 pitches, something like that, to kind of see how it goes. The plan would, be to have probably 11 relievers available out of the pen for the real games. But very much kind of read and react, and they've thought of all the kind of worst case scenarios, but there's no room for changes anymore. Like, those are the guys
Right.
they got, the 17 pitchers they brought, and then they'll whittle down to 13 for the real games. Tyone would be one of the 3 inactives. Nico Horner back in Arizona would be one of the inactives. And then theoretically, I'm not sure where they left it, Brad Keller, they could just bring there, not add him to the 40-man yet, but that is their plan at some point in March. Like there is a little bit of wiggle room with some of this stuff. And that another thing, I just in noticing people on social media or the comment section of The Athletic, like the roster is going to change again for domestic opening day, that the decisions they make now, some of it is just not wanting to make a decision, right? Like they did
kick the can down the road.
They did on Keegan Thompson, that their pitching depth is a point where they have 17 guys they think are better, that they're willing to, probably let him go at some point here in March. But for that Diamondback series, you see how everyone comes out of this, how they do the rest of the Cactus League schedule. And then I still think they're probably just going to defer to the guys who are out of options and things like that, like contract situations, like that gets priority. But we alluded to it earlier, like they have more options than they had in the past. They do have some urgency. Maybe they're not quite as patient. And also, we'll see again who's healthy and who's not during this window. But like Ben Brown is still like a really super interesting guy of like where does he fit? He made the travel roster. And if you're a starter like that, you're going to be pitching a lot. Maybe it's in some of those exhibitions and just sort of doing it that way. But he's someone who he's certainly one of their 13 most interesting and intriguing pitchers.
Absolutely.
And then it's ultimately, they're just going to keep stretching him out until they can't anymore, or a decision is forced. But he's probably the other name I'd be kind of curious to see of like, all right, what are they doing here with him, or how does he line up for April?
Matthew Boyd likely inactive or active?
It was to be determined
Okay.
right before they left Mesa that he could. I would guess he's probably piggybacking in Tyone's outing, but even Tyone had said, like, look, I'm supposed to start this exhibition game, but they've been told we don't know exactly what's going to happen. Like, you have to be sort of prepared for a couple different things, and that's why Shota and Steele kind of work backwards from, I think it's March 18th and 19th, but Boyd and Tyone were also kind of around that target date to where they could pitch, they could be available. And then Shota's going to have a pretty long layoff too in between his outings. I think he was going to do 2, high intensity bullpen sessions or something like that. Like it's going to be a lot for them to absorb over there.
Right. Right. And the Dodgers have to go through this as well, and they'll have to be creative as well. So it's not like it's some disadvantage for the Cubs. All right, Patrick, I'm really curious to see how it all goes down. We'll have one more episode this week, I believe. I'm losing, like I said, I have no clue what day it is or time of day or where I am. But we'll have one more episode this week, and then it is opening day next week. So it's right around the corner. It's creeping up on us. I will be sure to report from Tokyo. I guess that's why I'm out here.
And go somewhere other than just the hotel bar, right?
Yeah. I'm going to 7-Eleven. Come on. There's the 7-Elevens are actually supposed to be amazing, so I'm going to check it out.
That's what the Japanese comedian said. Who?
Yeah. So I definitely like all the we were talking about this in front of some Japanese writers, and they were like, "Oh no, it's not a joke. It's they're like
a high end chain, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I'll report back from 7-Eleven and the Tokyo Dome later on. Thanks so much for listening. This is Northside Territory. Make sure to rate, review, and subscribe. Make sure to subscribe to The Athletic, where Patrick and I are on top of all things Cubs. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. Take care.